I had no interest in being a painter until I was in my early 20s, but I was very aware that I liked drawing. I was very keen on ornithology when I was a kid, still am very keen on ornithology, and I did my first book of British birds when I was 12, in the sense that I copied every illustration in the Observer book of birds. And I do remember very clearly doing A-level art in Gowden, and the art teacher, Mike Gibbs, doing a little picture, and all of us A-level students were there watching him do this painting. It was a little watercolour of Kennington Common, just down the road from here. And we were talking about the difficulties and the pitfalls of being an artist. And I, as clear as day, remember thinking, this is what I'm going to do. It really hit me very strongly. I just thought, this is weird. I don't end up doing it. I just knew. And then it disappeared. And it completely went out of my mind. I went off, I travelled, did all the usual things that you did. And it only came back to me when I started college. And I suddenly thought, hang on, I don't want to be a teacher, actually. I actually want to paint. And being the kind of person I am, at the time I had no obligations, no children, no house to pay for. And so I packed in my teaching job after 4 weeks and decided I'd try and see if I could make it as an artist. I don't really think I taught myself, but it was an amalgam of things. You know, I had artists that I enjoyed, and I was lucky to meet a couple of them. I would never, you know, say, oh, how do you do this or how do you do that? I think it's better if you can work that out for yourself, because if you work something out for yourself, you get a real understanding of how it works. Whereas if you're told how it works, well, you still don't really know. It's only when you can do it for yourself. So when I started painting, I went through the attic garret. You know, do you buy a tube of paint, or do you have another rum barber for your tea? I was obsessive about mixing paints. I actually used to I should create my own colour charts, and I would do it using the tip of a matchstick. So it would be like 2 little dollops of paint of white and 2 little dollops of red equals this colour, whatever. And I produced hundreds and hundreds of these little things. No use to me at all. Absolutely, it didn't teach me anything other than I was wasting my time eventually, because there is no formula. There's no formula to painting at all. I think the best bit of advice I was ever given was by one of my tutors up in Carmarthen College, in the teacher training college, a guy called Gareth Thomas, brilliant fella. And he said the trick about painting is to paint the way you can paint, not the way you want to paint. And that is fantastic advice. It's really good advice, that. You've got to work it out what it means. You know, because like when I was up in college, I wanted to be surrealist, I wanted to be Magritte and all this kind of thing. And I remember Gareth coming to me one day, and I was doing this picture of the mill down in Llanryddion. And he said, Gareth, you know, you're trying too hard. You're not a surrealist, you're a romantic. And you know, at the time that word was horrible, romantic, I'm cutting edge and all this. But if you look at what the Romantics did, actually, they were incredibly powerful, they were incredibly cutting edge. I think it's the term romantic, but they were rebelling against the way that that painting was going in their lifetime. I'm a massive fan of Gower. I adore Gower. And it took me quite a while actually to work anywhere else but Gower. When I started off, and I was just doing primarily watercolours, I didn't used to travel far, so I didn't see the point. But then I went to North Wales, and I thought, oh, this is quite good actually. So I started doing a lot of work in North Wales. And then I went to Venice a couple of times, which I thought was fantastic, because it was exactly like the Turner paintings. You know, it hadn't changed, and you had plaques to where Turner and Ruskin, all these people stayed, and just fantastic. And also what it did for me when I started going abroad, I went to Crete for a month. I worked out there. because of the climate, it changed the way I worked. Because in this country, watercolour fits quite easily into this climate. It's not incredibly hot, and and the colours are very soft and subdued and greys and whatever. You go to Venice or you go to Crete, it's just right in your face. It's like, I'm blue, I'm red, I'm this, I'm that. There's no subtlety. When I paint in Wales, certainly when I paint on Gower, I'm very conscious that everybody knows Three Cliffs, everybody knows Worm's Head, and if you mess about with it too much, then, you know, I've heard it in my exhibitions, I've heard it in other people, oh, we've got that wrong, that's not like that. And I know as an artist you have to be creative, and that's the whole point. You aren't copying. But I do struggle in this country because I know people will absolutely know the Worm and Three Cliffs forever. But I find when I'm in Provence, I'm aware that people won't know about this place, so I can take liberties, and and it just frees me up. And then every time I come back from Provence, there's a certain period of time where that freedom exists when I'm painting around here. I'm also very conscious that, you know, as a Swansea-born, Gower-bred, if you like, person, there is only so much you can say. And doing what I've done for so long, you've got to go away on these little refreshers just to refresh your eye. And it always works. It always works. You know, when I come back, I always feel that I'm seeing things a little bit differently. And what I try to do with this exhibition is to do a few pictures of areas that people know, but in a way that they might not have seen before. I always find that if I'm aware of time, I'm not painting well at all. But it's when it just goes like that, and it could be, you know, a couple of hours, or it could be whatever. When I'm not aware of time, that's when I'm painting well. I certainly went through a phase early on where I insisted everything had to be done outside, even to the point of doing 4 foot by 3 foot canvases. I would do them all outside, which I have to say, a 4 foot 3 foot canvas it's not too bad when you go into wherever you are going to paint, but it's when you're coming back and it's all wet and you're trying to carry it, it's a bit impractical, to say the least. So I've now got to the stage, all of my work is based on observation, on the spot. I'm a huge fan of sketches. I wish sometimes I could get the the incisiveness of the sketch into my finished work sometimes. But the majority of my work is done outside. I find I haven't got any imagination compared to what happens outside. It's always amazes me. And it's the same old thing, obviously around here. You know, I've painted many pictures of the Worm, all on Gower, Three Cliffs, but I always say I don't paint it because it's the Worm, or because it's Three Cliffs, or Oxford, or Pulteney, whatever. I paint it because I go down there looking for something to happen. Now, if it's a patch of light striking the water, then that's what will catch my eye. This exhibition, it's been because I've had a few health situations which have prevented me working in my normal way. There's a number of French pictures in it which they were all done outside, but then sadly I had a little problem, a few health problems, and so for the first time I've had to do a lot of the work indoors in the studio, which it's funny, when I was first made aware that I couldn't actually work outside, because I developed a kind of a problem with daylight, which for me was a disaster. But okay, it's just a different way of doing things. It's a temporary thing which was passing. But the work for this show is almost like in two different halves. There's the stuff that I've done, which is all done outside, and it's all, you know, whatever, French, and there are some Gower and such like ones. But then most of the other work, as people say it, I've got a lot of acrylics and pastels, because for a while I wasn't allowed to use oil paint anyways. So it was quite good actually, because it made me look at the stuff that I do in a different way. because normally my exhibitions would be oil paints and then watercolours. But in the last year or two, they've just been oil paints, so I just love the texture of oil paints. So in a way, it wasn't a bad thing that I've had to move into a different medium. There's quite a lot of pastels, and they tend to be of North Wales and Pembrokeshire. And then there's acrylics, and acrylics are to me they're the trickiest medium because they always dry differently. They're a bit like watercolours; they always dry darker than they actually are. So they're the ones that I probably use the most because they are so easy to use, and you really can, you know, bash it on and have a lot of fun and get texture and all that. So that's great. But having worked purely in oils for so long, to go back to a water-based medium is that, you know, it took me a little while to get in my head. Okay, you've got to remember that it might look very light now, but when it dries off, it's going to be a lot darker. And that always creates problems with dark tones, because they can just go mud. And the trick with dark tones is to give them colour, make sure that there is colour there. I'm very conscious of how lucky I am. I've got a decent lifestyle, I've got a fantastic family, you know, 2 gorgeous kids, and it's all because of painting. It's all funded through painting. How lucky is that? You know, but I am one of those happy. I have to say, I would paint whether I didn't sell a picture or not. I just love the act of painting. There's something about, and certainly now, you know, I can't stop it now. It's, you know, I'm completely taken over by it.